Now, if you remember from part 1, we had this very basic comment system where you could like create a comment, so we'll say hello, and you could delete comments, and this would all be done without refreshing the page. I was looking at that and I thought that's pretty good. It would have made for maybe like a 20-minute tutorial, but then I was thinking, you know, I mentioned people offering suggestions, and I feel like everyone would like it to see what an actual feature-rich comment system would look like. So I went ahead and I created this comment system. So if we come over to our other application, which is run on a different port, and you click on one of these posts, you can see that our comments have action text. They're missing the file uploader, so you can't drag and drop an image in here. I can't drag this thumbnail onto here and have it like do anything, so that doesn't work. But what you can see here is that the comments themselves are basically what you would expect to find on a lot of websites, plus some extra features here. I'm going to show you how to get rid of the file uploader, so that if there's anything on this list you want to take off of, you can. I'll also show you how to do this if you just want plain text comments. But you have the username. So in this, we're changing from, if I come over to my code real quick, in the user.rb, we have this fake username that we're creating by splitting the email. We're getting rid of that, and we're going over to a devised username in this one. So that's something you can actually log in with. You also have a number here, which stands for your user accounts, like the number of posts that they've made. So right here, this was my 41st post, and this is my 42nd. And if I create another one, it'll say 43. So this should say 43, which it does. But you can see here, this is like Pedro's 9th, and Boyce's 10th, and Lester's 13th, and my 30th. But you get the idea. So that's just a comment tracker. So if a user creates a comment, you can see, oh, they have, 57 comments on my blog. That means that they probably contribute a lot. You have the ability to edit. So like here, you can see I messed around. I created a few posts, or a few comments, and then I edited them. And I can like bold this, and then I can, save this. So this will be bolded. And you can see here, this text just changed to edited less than a minute ago. And like I was hinting at, you can see the edit history. So if you click on this, here's the original text before I edited it, and then this is the edit right here. So yeah, that's basically it. So let me just change this one more time. One last edit, and then if I come in here, you can see the entire edit list being tracked. So how do we deal with all of this? How do we even begin to set this up? Well, this is going to be a longer episode. It's also going to be a bit more code heavy, so we're not going to be able to come over to the application and see every piece of code executing. We're actually going to spend a great deal of time inside of the editor. Some of the stuff we do is going to be a little bit more advanced and involved than it usually is, so I'm not going to be able to explain the super basic stuff. I'll try and explain some of the things as we go. But hopefully just the order that we do things in will be intuitive. It just means that we're not going to be able to come in here and see all of this stuff, like what it does from the application's point of view. The other thing is we're going to grab a default profile photo, which is on the GitHub repository for this project. So if you come to github.com/dnow, and then you go to the 20 and 20 project, you'll see the supplemental assets in week 1 folder. Inside there you have the credits. So this default photo was created by Kelvin. So shout out to Kelvin on Unsplash. And then you have the default profile photo. So if you just download that, we'll be using that in a little bit. And I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and let's jump over to some code. So let me kill this first server. So if I come over here, I think that's this one. Let me kill this. Let me just kill them both. And then we'll go ahead and check here. So this is inside of basically the same project as last week. I just copied it over and renamed it for organization's sake. Let me come over here and expand this. The first thing I guess we can do is we can start by creating the comments model. So because these comments aren't just, because they're not just single layer comments, they have replies, which means a comment can have many comments. That means we're going to be using polymorphic comments. So let's start by saying Rails g model comment. So a comment is going to have an edit history, which is just going to be of type text, but we are going to have to change the default value for this. So this is the string that we're storing all of those edit changes in. A comment will also have a commentable underscore ID, which is an integer. So this is going to be basically the parent of the comment's ID. So if the parent is the post, it'll be the post ID. And if the parent is a comment, it'll be a comment ID, which means we do have to check what type the parent is. And for that, we can say commentable underscore type, colon, and then this will be a string. So this will either be a post or a comment for now, but if you were to take this and add this to like users, you could also have a string that says user, and then it just means you have to check a third thing inside of your if statements. Next, we have a user colon references, of course, because a user has many comments. You'll also have a reply, which is a Boolean. Now, you could do this without a Boolean, but I chose to do it with one just to make it a little bit more clear when we do use it. And the last thing is this comment underscore number, which is a integer. So let's go ahead, let's run this command, and we have an issue here, which I'm not really sure what the issue is. Okay, maybe I just didn't run bundle. Looks like I might not have. So once that's installed, we can run a Rails DB :migrate command to migrate the database, which, oops, didn't mean to do that. It's fine, we'll just drop the database in a minute anyways because we have to do some changes. If we come into the DB folder, migrate, and the create comments, we need to change these around. We have to set this first one, so the edit history, we're going to say comma, default, colon, and then an empty string. We also want this Boolean to be default, colon, false, and the comment number doesn't really matter. Okay, so once that's done, we can create another migration. We'll say Rails G migration, add underscore number underscore of underscore comments underscore to underscore user. And then if I check in here, I think this is just number underscore of underscore comments colon integer. So we'll run that migration. Then we can come in here and we can change this number of comments integer to be comma default colon 0. So that's that migration handled, this migration handled, and the last one we'll do when we set up the devise usernames, but we're not using those right now. For now, we're still going to be using the fake usernames. So now let's do a Rails DB :drop and Rails DB :migrate. So I'll get rid of all the old stuff, add in the new stuff, which means we'll have a blank application. So there won't be anything left to sort of check with while we do this. So once we have this migration set up, we want to start, I guess, in the comment model. So let's come up here to the comment.rb model, and I'll open it up in my other window, and let's full screen this because we're probably going to be in here for a while. So we have the belongs to user. That's great. Let me go ahead and let me move this up in my other so that can be a bit more organized. The first thing we want to do is say before underscore create. Then we want to say set underscore comment underscore number. So every time a comment is created or before it's created, we're going to call this. And we'll define this down here. So we'll say def set underscore comment underscore number. And in here, what we want to do is say self.comment underscore number. We want to set this equal to like the user's total number of comments created. So for this, we need to come into the user model. And in the user model, what we want to say is, first of all, a user is going to has underscore many colon comments. And they're also going to have this method that we can call down here, which will say def comment underscore created, I guess. And we can say self.number underscore of underscore comments is equal to the number underscore of underscore comments plus 1. And this is the same thing as num comments plus equals 1. So we're just incrementing it by 1. We'll then call save. Oops. And after we call save, we'll just return the number of comments. And this is the same thing as return, but you can type return. But if I save this with my formatter, it's just going to get rid of that and just leave it as number of comments. So we have this method, number of comments inside, or we have this comment created inside of our user.rb model. So let's come over to comment.rb. And instead of saying users.total number of users, what we can do over here is we can say the user.comment underscore created. So we create a new comment in here. We call this user method. The user method increments its number of comments and then returns the number of comments, and then we store that number of comments inside of this comment number, basically. So I think there's a bit of redundancy here that could probably be optimized, but again, I sort of wrote this code in like a 12-hour span of just nonstop, and it is a bit hacky, but that's sort of the point of doing one of these challenges, is to just, you know, test your limits and maybe not necessarily write the best code, but something that you can learn from. And I think there's plenty to be learned from this. So the next thing is, if you check the migration that we created, we're not actually creating the body that we're, like the body of text of the comment, like there's no content to it. And that's because I was using the tricks editor, or action text, which uses the tricks editor. But if you wanted to, you could just create like a t.text for the body and, you know, run that, which would give you the default body. But since we're using action text, what we have to do is we have to say has underscore rich underscore text and then colon body inside of this comment, which is similar to what we did in the post.rb model, where we said has rich text body. So once that's done, we have the action text set up. Now we have to set up the polymorphic comments. And this is going to take 2 steps. So the first one is a comment's going to belongs to a commentable. And we're going to set polymorphic, the lowercase p to true. And then a comment also has underscore many comments. And we're going to say it has many comments as commentable and dependent colon destroy. So it has many comments and it does so as a commentable. It also belongs to a commentable, which means a post is going to need something changed. And the dependent destroy just means that when you delete a comment, it's going to delete all of its comments or all of its replies, whatever you want to call it. I think that's it for this comment model. So let's go ahead and let's close this. And the next thing we want to do, I guess, is we can come into the post.rb model. And in here, what we can do is we can say it, I guess, above the active storage stuff, it has underscore many colon comments as commentable, and then dependent colon destroy. So this handles the comments portion of this. We also want in the post, or in the user.rb, the user has many comments, but the user has many comments, and it's also going to be dependent colon destroy. So if you delete a post, it'll delete all of the post's comments, and if you delete a user, it'll delete all of the user's comments. So if you're like banning people off your website, this would sort of be how you would do it. Okay, so that handles, I think, all 3 of the models, at least for now. So let's close some of these windows. And now let's come up to the controllers folder. Actually, let's just create a Rails G controller comments. So we'll create a comments controller, come in here, and we'll, I guess, get started with the comments controller. Okay, so this one I can already see needs some optimizations over what I had before. First thing, let's create all the actions. So we'll say def create end. So it has a create, it also has an edit, it also has an update, it has a destroy, It has a history action. It also has a private area that we say def comment underscore params. And it has a find commentable. So say def find commentable end. And I don't have this one over here, but we're also going to say def set comment end. So for this one, we can just say @comment equals comment.find params ID. For the comment params, I just slow down the DPI on my mouse. For the comment params, we'll say params.require comment, and then we just need to permit the body. For the find commentable, we have two options. The commentable could either be a comment because it's a reply to another comment, or it can be a post because the comment you're making is a comment on a post. So if the parent is a comment, then we say if params comment underscore ID. If this has something in it, then we know that the thing that we're looking for is the thing that we're being provided is a comment ID. Then we say @commentable is equal to comment.find underscore by underscore ID. And then we'll say params comment underscore ID. Otherwise, if it's a post, so let's just end this, then we need to say @commentable is equal to post dot, and if you weren't using friendly ID, it would just be post.find. But because we're using friendly ID, which if you'll recall from this post controller down at the bottom, when we used friendly ID, we had to say capital P post.friendly.find params ID. So we're going to come over here and change this. Post.friendly.find and then params. And for this one, the param is going to be post underscore ID. And this shouldn't be an else. This should be an else if. And the reason for that is, well, it'll be a bit more obvious as we continue. If we scroll up to the top, or I guess don't scroll up, the first thing we need to do is say before underscore action find underscore commentable. We also need a before underscore action authenticate underscore user exclamation. So we're checking to make sure the user is signed in, and we're also doing this find commentable, which is assigning this @commentable. The issue here is I think we only really use the commentable inside of the create action. So for the other ones, we want to do the set comment. So what we can do for this is say before action set underscore comment except for create. And for this one, we can say only for create. Now, alternatively, you could just combine this set comment with this find commentable, but I kind of wanted to do it this way so you can see when you would use except versus when you would use only. And if there's like more than one action here, like you also didn't want to use this for edit, you could say comma, colon, edit. But we do want to use it, so that's going to stay just like that. Let's start with create. For this one, we say @comment. @comment is equal to @commentable, which is the parent, and then we say .comments.build. So we're creating a new child object for this parent, and we're passing in comment underscore params. We then say @comment.user is equal to the current underscore user, which we can do because we're authenticating the user right here. This needs to have a T. Oops, a T. Then we say @comment.reply. So how do we check if it's a reply? I guess what we could do is we could say if params comment underscore ID. So if it's a comment ID, then I guess we could say like @comment.reply is equal to true. You could also say, I guess, like @commentable.type and check if it's a compare it to like comment type, but I guess this works for now. So that sets the reply, and then we say @comment.save. So that's it for the create action. Now, because we're doing all of these things remotely, And the code formatter just changed this around again. I guess this is a better way of doing this. Because we're doing all of these things remotely, we don't have like a comments / create.html.erb. Instead, we call the controller, it does these things, and it doesn't redirect. What it does do is it comes into this comments folder and it says, is there a create.js.erb file? And if there is, do the stuff in there. And we do that because we update it remotely, but then maybe you want to change something on the page. So like if we come back to, if we come back to this, let's say you delete a comment, or we can use the create as an example. So you create a comment, you come into the controller, and you're like, okay, we just saved the comment. You then come into create.js.erb, and then you like type something that's like, hey jQuery, can you add @comment to the page? And then this is where you're actually doing the thing that's like creating a div here that's cloning this page row thing, for example. So that's why we have the create.js.erb file. We also need one for all of these other actions. So as we go through these, and for some of these we really won't have anything, like the edit one doesn't have anything because the only thing we need for the edit is to set the comment. So we can just create a new file here and say edit.js.erb. And we don't put anything in the create action here, but we do need edit.js.erb to actually create, and the server stopped here, to actually create this form inside this body of this comment. So that's all the edit does, is it like creates an action text form right here, and then it takes the @comments.body and puts it inside the form. So it might like put this in here and then put this whole thing inside this comments body right here. So that's what the edit.js.erb does. The actual thing that changes what the comment is going to be inside of this update action. And I'm going to change my indentation here. It's using spaces. I want to use tabs and set it equal to 2 because this is driving me nuts. Okay, so inside of the update, we're already setting the comment. What we want to do though is say if the @comment.edit_history is equal to an empty string, else end. So when you actually click on the thing that says this comment was edited 5 minutes ago or whatever, and it pops up the window, we have to store the previous edit somewhere, and that's what's inside of the edit history. So if the edit history is blank, then what we want to do is we want to say @comment.edit_history is equal to, and I sort of formatted it this way. I said the original is equal to, or the append original : to the comment.body. And remember, this is action text. And as counterintuitive as it is, every action text object has a body. So if this were like, if your comment had a field called content, the content would have a body. But here we called the content the body, so instead we're doing @comment.body.body, which is a little confusing, but I hope that made sense. And then we're calling to_plain_text to convert it to just some plain text. And then we're saying /n, and we're using this later to do a G substitution on it, or we use an expression to search for this /n, and then every time we find this /n, we replace it. So we say if /n, then we replace /n with like a BR and then an HR, I think. So every time we get to the end of a like edit block, we add in a BR and an HR so it just looks nicer. So the next thing we do is in the else we say @comment.edit_history. So if we've already saved the original into the edit history, then we just need to append the new one to whatever the old edit history was. So for here we say at comment.edit_history plus, and then I just said the word edit colon, and this is where the new edit takes place. And for this we need to grab the comments body, but we can't just say colon body. The way you access this sort of nested thing is by saying colon comment, and then next to it open up another square bracket and then colon body, and that'll get you the actual body. After that we say plus, and then we add in another new line. Once all of that's done, you can then say at comment.update comment_params. That'll update it. But now if you want to actually like display this new comment content onto the page, you have to come to your comments folder and create an update.js.erb file. Okay, so that's the update. That's the update.js.erb, and don't worry, we'll add all of this in later. I just want to explain why we need these files now while it's relevant, and then later when we get to the part in the actual code that we're updating. So like for this, you're going to have somewhere in the code where we have like at comment.body, and then we'll like give this an ID equal to comment-18-body or something. So this will be in the .html.erb. We then come into here and we say, okay, well, we know the ID is comment-comment.id -body, and then we want to say set this .html to be jrender the comment. So it'll search for the specific ID with an ID equal to comment hyphen and then the actual ID of the comment, so each one's unique. Then we set the HTML of it to be a JavaScript render of the comment partial. But we don't have any of that stuff right now, so I don't want to do that right now. I just want to show you why we're creating 20 different files over here. The next thing we do is for the destroy. Now we're already setting the comment up here with the set comment, so the only thing we really have to do here is say at comment.destroy. We're not redirecting. The one thing we are doing, again, is we're going to like delete it off the page. So if I come over here and I hit F12, let's say we've deleted Pedro's comment right here, right? So this whole thing's deleted. Let me open this up. So this has an ID equal to comment-72. So if I come into the console and I open up some jQuery, I can say find this comment-72, or this div with an ID of comment-72, and just .remove it. And that gets rid of it. So now Aldo's the top one. I didn't actually remove it from the database by doing it here in the console, but you sort of see what I mean. So that's what we're doing in the destroy .js.erb file. So I'll just create that. In the comments folder, I'll say destroy.js.erb. The last thing is the history. So let me close some of these files. In the history one, we've already set the comment. So this is done. But for the history, I think there's a couple that we need to do. So we have history.js.erb, history.js.erb, which is the one that corresponds to this action. And I think there's a couple more that we do later on for some partials maybe. But I think this is it for this specific controller. So let's come down now to the show.html.erb file and let's start getting into some of the fun stuff. Okay, so the first thing we want to do inside of the show page, below the blog post, and I'm going to be using Emmet for some of this stuff, which is something that lets me type like .container, and then I can hit tab, and it'll create a div with a class of container. I'll have a link to a video where I covered how to set up Emmet and some of my syntax highlighting and formatting, but if you want to just use Emmet, it's already installed in Visual Code. All you have to do is come to File, Preferences, Settings, search for Emmet, so E-M-M-E-T, scroll down and enable Trigger Expansion on tab. And that'll let you do, I think, what I'm doing right here. So the first thing I do is I create a div with a class of container. And then in this container, we need the form. and then we need all the comments. So let's start with this form. We're going to be using this form a couple times, because if you'll remember, we have this edit form, or we have this reply form right here to reply to the post. Each comment has the ability to reply to it, and every time we edit a comment, it also creates this form. So instead of putting this form in 20 different locations and repeating code, I put it into a partial. So for this, in the comments folder, we'll create a new file and say underscore underscore form.html.erb. Got a little bit ahead of myself there. So for this form, we'll just say render the comments/form, and then we need to give it the parent of the thing we're creating. So in this case, the commentable will set to be @post, so the parent is the post. And then for local, we're going to pass in comment.new. And this is just a way to create something called local that has a new comment in it. So when we do the form builder, we can do that. And this is just a way for me to abstract it so that it'll work in other locations for other means. So that takes care of the comments form. Let's go into the form actually and just set that up real quick. I think it's actually the comments form. So if I come into the comments form in my other page, I can see it. There we go. First thing we do is we create a div with a class equal of row. We then create a div with a class equal to comment-form. Comment-form. And then we create a new Rails, well, I guess new for me, Rails 5 form. We call this form_width, which is different from a form 4. The old form 4 is used for if you're like, if you want to redirect to a new page. So if remote is false, form width by default has it set to remote true. So this will automatically handle doing this remotely. So we say form width model. We then need to pass in into this like array our commentable, which is the parent, and our local, which is the child. And then we'll say do f. And then we can end this. Inside here, we have a div with a class equal to form-group. And then we have our text area and then our submit button. So let's start with the submit one because it's the easiest. So we'll say f.submit, we'll call it post, and we'll say comma, and we'll give it a class, and we'll just give it some bootstrap classes. So we'll say button, dark, and I have float-right, which is another bootstrap class. This comment form, you'll see me create a couple classes with comment-something. We're going to be creating some custom CSS for this, so that's where that's coming from. Once we have that, we have our text, or our body from the comment. So if you're using a regular text object, like you don't want to use action text for this, so in your migration for create comments, you have something right here that says like t.string body, and you're just using that. Then for this next part, I think you can just, you could probably even just use simple form for this, but you would say f.text_area:body. Or we're using action text, which means we're using Trixt, which is a rich text area. So for this, we say f.rich_text_area for the :body. We give it a placeholder, and we just say like say something, ... And if we come over to this, you can see all that say something is it's just what the thing says when you're not focusing the text area. After that, we have quite a bit more actually. So we say class is a reply-form- and I had to give this a unique ID. So I gave it reply-form-comment.id or commentable.id. Sorry, I gave it a unique class, not a unique ID. I was thinking what I was reading, or I guess I was reading out loud. And then I say comma, and I also give it a unique ID by saying f.object.object_ID. And then I also say the method is a patch. Okay, so that takes care of all of that for the rich text area. The next thing I do is down here. So when we create a tricks form or an action text form, we remove the ability to attach files, and we remove the button that allows you to attach a file. So you don't see the ability to attach a file, so that already gets rid of some of the users, and the ones that think they can be sneaky by trying to drag and drop it onto the form itself, we also stop them by disabling that behavior. But for all of this, we need to open up a script tag, because we do need to be as safe as possible when we're messing around with this. And because we need to make sure this always runs, we need to stop our good old friend TurboLinks from being nightmare fuel. And for this, you can use the document.on to listen for the TurboLinks:load event. And then when that loads, you can call this function, close it with a semicolon. You can then say, we need to remove the file attachment icon. So for this, the class is tricks -button -group -file -tools. And then outside of this, we call the .remove method. Once that's done, we can then say document.add event listener. We need to listen for the tricks file except. When that runs, we call function, we pass event, because we need to say event.prevent the default behavior. And then semicolon here. And I think that's it. Okay, so now we have this form. We're passing in the commentable and the local. This is the same thing as saying comment.new, but because we're using it in a couple places, we say local. This is just the same thing as like the parent, but we're passing it in as the commentable. Once that's done, so we close the form. We come back to the show page. After we create that, we then say we need this like all comments thing. And for this, I created a div and I gave it an ID equal to comment-pane. And then in here, and I apologize if you can hear line, probably should have closed that before I started. For here, we can say @comments.each do comment. So just like you would iterate over anything else. And then in here, we just want to say render the comment. Now this @comments we haven't defined yet, so if you're confused where this is coming from, we need to come into the post controller. We need to go up to the show action, and we need to say @comments, and then let me just make sure that this is all I did here. Yes, so I did @comments equals @post.comments.order, and I ordered them by created _@desc, which is making sure the newest comment is at the top. But you need to be careful how you order this. You need to make sure you're only ordering the post comments and not that you're ordering all the comments, because if you did that, then you would also be ordering these in that weird ordering. Oh boy, that's a lot of orders. But this is basically it for this post controller, which will allow us to do @comments in here, and then we render this comment, which is just Rails' way of saying render this from the comments/comment partial. So let's create that by going to our comments folder and then saying _comment.html.erb. And once we're inside of this partial, we then create a couple more divs and check for the reply. So we say create a div with a class of comment-container and an ID equal to comment hyphen and then it's comment hyphen comment.id. So this is just going to create this comment ID. So if we click on here, just somewhere I guess, and scroll up a little bit, this is how we get the actual comment object's ID. So we say comment hyphen, open up some Ruby code which works inside this string, and you can actually grab the ID to make sure this is always unique. So once we have that, we can expand on this div, and we can say create a div with a class equal to container. We then need to, I guess, render the rest of the comments. So we'll say render comments/comments, and we'll pass in the comment as comment, and we'll pass in a new comment by saying comment.new. So we'll come back to this in a second. Basically what we're doing is we create the one comment, and then we create all of its child comments, which are technically its replies. But down here, what we do, we need to check and make sure when we get to the end of all of its replies, then we need to create the ability to reply down here. So we're already setting the reply boolean right here. So we can check if this is true inside of this comment partial. Now what we want to check is if comment.reply does not equal true, but what we can do instead is just say unless the comment.reply equals true, do this. So it's just sort of shorthand for that. And then in here we say .row, so div with a class of row, and a div with a class of column-4, and a div with a class of column-8, and then inside of this column-8 we say .comment-form-nested, and inside of that we say render the comment form again, so render, open up some quotes, comment/form, and pass in the commentable, but this time the commentable isn't at post, this time it's the parent comment, and the local is still a new comment. So once that's done, we can clean this up a little bit. We now need to create this partial. So inside of comments, we have the comment.html.erb, but now we need the underscore comments.html.erb. And this is a little bit bigger. So in here, and let me actually come over here. So let me search for Bootstrap 4 again. And if you come to the Bootstrap page and you go to Layout, I think, Grid, you can see what all these column-4s stand for. They have a whole bunch of examples here, and all it does is it tells you how much of the page you're allocating. So it's a 12-element row, basically. And if you're allocating like 2, that means you're allocating 2/12 of the row to that element, basically. Yeah, so that's where all of that layouting is coming from. That's how we're like resizing the page. I think there's also some offsets. So you used to be able to do like column-offset-4 or something like that. So here I'm just using an empty div. I'm sure someone in the comments will, explain how to do this better. I'm not really a CSS person. This is kind of the extent of my stylage capability, but yeah, you get the idea. So that's where the grid's coming from. The other thing is for all of these comment-form-whatever, there's two options. I'm either using it for styling or I'm using it for grabbing inside of our .js.erb files. So yeah, let's go ahead before we create this comments partial. Let's add in the CSS style because that might clear up some things. So if we come to assets, style sheets, and I think I put this in the post.scss file. I created a couple things. So if you look at the actual post real quick, you'll notice that the comment container, so let me see if I can grab this. The comment container itself has this drop shadow. So if you go to Google, you can actually search for drop shadow CSS generator, and you can, mess around with it, get your drop shadow, and then copy paste it. For me, I did that, and I ended up with this, which I thought looked pretty good. So we'll say dot comment hyphen container, which is the name of the thing, because if we come over here, we can see that this has a class of comment container. And these are the values. So you have multiple browsers, so you do need to support them if you're using the box shadow. So for the regular box shadow, I went with 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 5 pixel, 0 pixel. And for the RGBA, it's straight zeros, and then the alpha is 0.75, which is the opacity. And if you're using Visual Studio Code for any of these, you can actually click into the RGBA and just change it like this, and you can see here it changes it depending on what you click on. But that's the values I went with. It's just 0, 0, 0, and then 0.75, and then it's the same top, bottom, left, right, or top, right, bottom, left for all 3 of these. So for the WebKit box shadow, the Moz box shadow, and for the actual box shadow itself. So it is pretty, it gets clearer as you look at it. Like, I know initially it just looks like I'm throwing a bunch of numbers at you that I just pasted in here, but it's just so you can support multiple things. I also gave the comment container a margin of 1 EM and a padding hyphen bottom of 1 EM. So let's close that. Next we have the dot inner hyphen comment hyphen container. And this one is, if I expand one of these down enough, you'll see we have the tricks is it down here? Yeah. So this is just the container around all of the replies. And we gave that container a margin of 1 EM and a padding hyphen bottom. We did that. We then also had to style the avatar, because as you can see here, the user's avatar is a rounded image and it's a specific size. So for this I said comment hyphen avatar, user's avatar a border hyphen radius of 50%, which just changes it to a rounded shape. You can mess around with this and it'll change it from, like perfectly square to perfectly round. I also gave it a margin of 0.5 EM, a max hyphen width of 100%, a max hyphen height of 100%, and then I gave it a clip hyphen path of circle with 4 EM at the center. I'm not sure if this is redundant or not. Honestly, this is way past my capabilities as a CSS person. So maybe someone in the comments can say if this needs to be changed. Maybe just make a master list and I'll just pin it as the top comment. But we also have a class for the comment hyphen timestamp. So I think this is the timestamp right here. Yep, so this is the timestamp. So we're just styling this text. So we say the font hyphen size is 1.5 EM. The color will say RGB 25, 25, 25. And the font hyphen weight will be 625. Next we have the comment hyphen number, which is the same thing as the last one. We'll grab the font size and the color, we'll paste those in here. But the font hyphen weight is 300. So the comment number is this one. So the weight is 300 because we want it to look a little bit more faded than the username does. We also have the dot comment dash body, which is just the actual body of the text. And all we're doing with this is we're just saying text hyphen align colon justify. And the last thing we have in here is the dot comment hyphen form hyphen nested, which is this. So we should be able to see whatever this container is somewhere in here. But I'm starting to lose it. I might just be missing it. But all we're doing for this one is we're giving it a margin hyphen right of 2em, which sort of pushes it over, I think. Unless I ended up not even using this. We'll see as we go through the video, I guess. But that's all of the CSS, I think. So we can go back to our safe space of creating Rails content. The next thing we have to do is this comments.html.erb partial. So let's come over there. And for here, we do have quite a bit of code to go through. So let's get started. We start with a row. We create a column hyphen 3 inside of it. And then we create another row inside that. And then inside that row, we need to add the user avatar. So this right here is where the user avatar exists. For this, we'll say if comment.user.avatar .attached question mark. So if the user does have an avatar attached, so we do need to come into the user.rb model, and we need to give this an avatar. So below this has many comments. We'll say it has one attached space colon avatar. Now we do need to still sanitize this, but we'll do this as we go through the devise username setup because it kind of overlaps. But if the user has a avatar attached, let me find my view here because I just lost it again. If the user has an avatar attached, we need to say image underscore tag, and then we'll grab the comment.user.avatar, and then we'll give it a class, and we'll set the class equal to the comment avatar CSS that we styled a minute ago. Else, the user does not have an avatar attached, so we need to just create, or we need to grab like a default image. And for this, we have the stuff at the dnout 20 and 20 repository. So we just grab this default image and we'll put it into the public folder. And it's called default underscore profile.png. So we can come to comments.html.erb and we'll say image underscore tag and then slash default underscore profile.png. That'll get the image, and then we just need to give it the same class as the other one. So we'll say comment hyphen avatar, and then we can close this. So that does it for the avatar for the user. We also have a dot row right here. And this dot row is where the comment timestamp lives. So for this, we'll say dot comment hyphen timestamp and an ID of edit hyphen history hyphen text hyphen comment.id. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, so let's come back. Text hyphen. And then we'll say this needs to be a comment.id. Okay. And then inside here, we render, %equals, render another partial, and this one is inside the comments folder, and the partial is called the edit underscore history underscore text partial. And we need to pass in a comment, so we say comment colon, and we pass in this comment. So let's go into, or let's create this edit underscore history underscore text partial. So we'll say underscore edit underscore history underscore text dot html.erb. And then in there, if I find it in my other folder, we start with a time underscore ago underscore in underscore words. which is something that comes with Rails, and then we just say comment.created_at, which will just say this was created like 5 minutes ago or 5 hours ago. We then add in a BR tag just to space things out a bit. And then we create a local variable, so we call it edit_history. And there's no equal sign here because we're not trying to print this out, we're just storing this. So we say edit history is equal to comment.edit_history. And for this, we're going to use a ternary operator. And for anyone who hasn't seen this before, if you're working in a language like, let's say Python, and you have a, let's say you have an integer that you're going to set, or maybe let's do it this way. Let's say you have a Boolean, so we'll say bool can drink. So your Boolean can drink, you'll set to true if the user's age is greater than 21. So you say bool can drink equals user.age is greater than or equal to 21. If it is, then set it to true, else set it to false. So all this is it's the same thing as saying if the user.age is greater than or equal to 21, can_drink equals true, else can_drink equals false. That's all a ternary operator is. So we take this and we say if the comment.editHistory is equal to blank, then we just return blank. So if the edit history is blank, then there is nothing here that says edited 5 hours ago. This is just an empty string being printed out right here. If the edit history isn't blank, then we need to add the text that says this was edited 5 hours ago or whatever. So for this we can say last edited space, and then we'll do time_ago_in_words comment.updated@, instead of created at, plus, and then we do some quotes, space ago. So if the edit history is blank, do nothing. If the edit history is not blank, say that it was last edited 5 hours ago. Now, this is just our variable that stores that text. We now need to say, create a link to, parentheses, edit_history, which is the text, give it a name or a route of just JavaScript : semicolon, comma, give it a data of toggle. So you want to set the toggle for the data toggle to be modal, and the target to be the div with an ID equal to edit_history. And we're going to create this modal in a second here, and we're going to give it an edit history ID. So let's actually do that before we do the other things, just so it's fresh in your minds. So if we come over to the Bootstrap page real quick, come to Components and Modal, you can see right here, these are what the modals look like. We're just going to be creating one of these real quick. Inside of our _comments, plural.html.erb. So we'll just say, let's add in a comment here and say this is for the modal. We'll start with a div class equal to modal and fade. So we're giving it both those classes. We'll give it an ID equal to the edit_history. So in our edit history, this thing here that says the data attribute toggle is a modal and the target is an edit history, that's just saying toggle this. So make this visible to the user when they click on it. So that's how we're doing it without like creating a specific JavaScript script. We then say tab index equals -1. It has a role equal to dialog. It has a aria -labeled by, and this is, what did I say for this? I guess we can just say it's like the comment edit history. And then we say aria-hidden equals true. And we close off the div. We then have another div which has a class equal to modal-dialog and a role equal to document. We then have another div with a class of modal-content. Inside of that, we have a h5 with a class equal to modal-title, an ID equal to the edit_history_title, and then we just say edit history, and then we close off the h5. Now you could realistically, because this is the window that appears when you click on a user's comments edit thing, you could say like comment.user.username '(s) is edit history. So like Deanin's edit history or something. But I'm just leaving it like this because, well, I already spent 12 hours on the project. I couldn't optimize every area of this. So I'll leave that sort of up to you guys how you want to, I guess, express yourself creatively there. We do also have a button with a type equal to button, a class equal to close. So this is the close button in the top right of the modal. It has a data-dismiss equal to modal. I'm a little too German to remember which one is plural and which one is singular. It also has an aria label equal to close. And I'm sure someone's going to tell me now that, like, knowing my luck, it's probably the same in German and English. And then it also has a span of aria-hidden equal to true. And then inside of the span, we just say ampersand times semicolon. We then come out of the button and out of this first div, I think, right? How many divs in are we? We might have missed one, actually, now that I'm looking at this. We have the modal content. Yeah, we need another div here. Div class equal to modal-header. So this is between the modal content and the modal title. So we close this, and then we need to move this down here. So we have modal fade, modal dialog, modal content, modal header. We then have the h5 and the button. We come out of the header, and then we come out of the modal we just come out of the header. So right here. And then inside this, we need another div with a class equal to modal-body and an ID equal to edit-history-body. We then need to render something else. So here we say render comments/edit_history, which is not a partial we've created yet. And we need to pass in this comment again. This is why I said this was a bit more of an advanced tutorial, because it's something that after you program for a little while and you get used to using Rails, this doesn't seem as scary, but when you're first starting out, it just seems like code is coming out of nowhere. I'm trying my best to help people fight that, but this is a bit too advanced to like fully explain every aspect of where all these renders and why all these renders are happening. So let's close this div for the footer. And in the footer, I think we just need a button with a type equal to button, a class equal to button-secondary, a data-dismiss equal to modal. We then close the button, and inside of here we just put the word close. So this is just at the top you have the exit button with the X, which is this one, and at the bottom you have a button that literally has the word close on it that you can also click. So once that's done, this is the modal that we are expanding and using for the edit history inside of this edit history text. So when you click on the link that says this was created 5 hours ago, this is the thing the window that it's creating, basically. Okay. So we have the avatar, we have the edit history text, and we have this, where were we in the comments? we have this comment/edit history that we need to create. So if we come to our comments folder, we'll create another partial. We'll call this one _edit_history.html.erb. We'll open that one up. And in here, all we're doing, this is where from our comments controller, which we'll go back to real quick, when we create these new lines, this is where we're doing the substituting. So inside of the edit history, we say comment, because we passed in the comment into the partial, comment.edit_history, and then we use the G sub, which allows us to, inside of these two slashes, we can search for something. So here we're just searching for /n, and we're replacing it with BR and HR. And then once we do that, we have this HTML, but it's just going to like print out those actual characters to the screen. So instead we need to say .html_safe. And this will be safe because we know we're only using BRs and HRs here. Unless that creates like a Turing complete language, then we might be in some trouble, but who knows. So let's close this. And I think that's it for the modal now. Like for real this time. For real, for real. So outside of this edit history up here, we come out of 1 div, 2 divs, 3, and then before the last one closes, we create another column -9. We say this has a row. Inside the row, it has a column -8. Inside the column -8, it has a comment, dot comment -username. And then for this one, we just say this is the comment.user.username. And the good thing about switching over to the devise username is once we change it and remove it from the user.rb, all of this stuff will still work as long as we call the actual devise username as well. So that's nice. After we do the username, we come out of this first div, and right here we do another div with a class equal to comment-number. So this just shows how many comments the user's created. So we put the number symbol, and then comment.comment_number. We then come out of, oh, this is not right. This should be a div with a class equal to column-8. Shows how much attention I'm paying, and this should be a closing div. Next, we create the edit and the delete links. So for this, we need to check if the current user is logged in, and then we'll put this in parentheses. So there's two other conditions here. We could either have the current_user is equal to the comment.user, or the current_user.admin. So if the user is the person who created this comment, or they're an admin, then they can do these things. We'll just say end, because there's no else statement here. So if that's the case, let's create a button group inside of a column 4. So we'll say div with a class equal to col-4 and text-right. And we'll give this a style with a padding -right :0. And we'll close off this div. And then in here we'll say dot button -group. Oh, actually, and then let's so button group role equals group aria-label equals edit and delete button group. So in here we'll do a link to for the edit button. We'll say edit_comment_path. We'll pass in the comment. Say a class of button warning. And I have float right here, but I think that might not be necessary. So let's just say remote true. And then for the destroy, we say link to delete. And then for this one, we just need to use comment. It works the same way as, let me come over to the layouts nav bar. When we do the logout link in the nav bar, we do the destroy user session path, but then we use the method delete. We're going to do the same thing over here, which actually reminds me, come over to the nav bar real quick, and for this new post, let's just change this to be the href of new underscore post underscore path. Just because I keep forgetting to do that, and hopefully this will make the nav bar work properly. So once we do this link to delete comment, we'll say class of button hyphen danger. So this is the red button, comma method colon delete remote true. I think that might be it for the buttons. So once we get out of this, we get out of the end, we have one div close here, and then we say div with a class, oh no, we do an HR first. So this is HR class equal to md-4, and then we do a div with a class equal to comment-body, id equal to comment-body comment.id inside of some Ruby code, so we get the actual comment ID. And then inside of this is where we finally say comment.body, and boy does it feel good to finally get to that point, doesn't it? Once all of that's done, the last thing we have to do is generate the rest of the comments. So this was just for the first comment.body. Now we have to handle all of the comment replies. For this, we'll come out of all the divs, and we'll say with a class of row, we'll create another div. We'll say class of call-3, a class of call-9. So the 3 and the 9 are next to each other again. And then inside of the 9, this is where we'll say, give it a class of inner-comment-container. But this inner comment container has an ID equal to reply hyphen and then some Ruby code, comment.id, and then we close the Ruby code. And then once all that's done, the way we render all of the other comments is we sort of work recursively. So we say for this comment dot comments. So for every child comment to this comment dot each do comment, and we end this. For every child comment, render the comment. So you get into this comments, and then it goes back into this comment partial right here. This comes in here, and if you were to have more replies nested inside of it, you could see how this could sort of work to infinitely reply if you wanted like a Reddit situation. But I felt like this was already involved enough for the sake of this tutorial, so I kind of stopped with one layer deep. But this is it for the comments html.erb file. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, I guess, is we need to do all these js.erb files, but let's see how bad the damage is. Let me save this show page as well. How bad the damage is if I were to start the server and so let's run a Rails DB :migrate, I guess, or maybe we change some migration. Let's do Rails DB :drop and Rails DB :migrate just to be on the safe side. I think all of the back end stuff might be good except for like the devise usernames. So let's see what the damage is here. So let's do Rails S and see what happens. Let's move this over here just so we can keep an eye on any sort of errors that we run into. So let's go to the home page. It's compiling. That's something at least. I can hear my computer ticking away as it tries to survive this. Okay, so there's no posts on the homepage. That's sort of expected. We'll sign in with, oh, we have to sign up because we don't have a user account. So let's say dean@example.com. password of password, sign up. Okay. Oh, we need to make ourselves an admin. So let's kill the server, type Rails C, and then we'll say user at user equals user.first at user.admin at user.admin equals true at user.save. So that makes us an admin. Let's run Rails S again, refresh the page, and then let's see if we can create a new post. So say new post, give it a title of our first working post, maybe a little bit, question mark. And then let's give it a picture. So let's go to, I think /backgrounds. Let's give it this cool purple one. And then for the banner, let's give it, this one looks cool. And then let's go to hipsum.co. Does that still exist? Sure. Let's grab some hipster ipsum and let's paste this in here. Let's bold this one. Let's italicize this one. And like maybe right here, let's attach a file and let's insert this cool image, which I think is actually all of the orbital rotations of some of the bodies in our solar system. So that's neat. Oh yeah, right here, the solar system. Let's hit submit. And I saw an error. Undefined method post comments path. Right, we haven't created any paths yet. So let's come over here. That is a lot farther than I thought we would make it. And considering this is like one of the first forms, that's not really saying a lot. But let's come to config. So the config folder and routes.rb. And if you're ever trying to do this in VS Code, you can also hit Control and P and just type routes.rb and it'll open this file. That shortcut also works in Sublime and Atom, but it might not be Control P in those. It might be something else, but you can definitely search for like how to get a quick access hotkey or something. So we do have a couple routes to do here. For the posts, we need to add another route. So we'll say resources posts do. So you can actually create a do block here. And inside of this, you can also create your resources comments. And then outside of this, we also need to create resources for the comments. And for this, because we're doing this recursively, we need to do the same thing we did for the posts, but for these comments, which looks a little funny. But basically, we're creating all of the resources for the comments after the posts. So this is like /posts or /post/1 /comments /edit /:1 is sort of what the path looks like here. Because you have like /post and then the show page, then you have the comments and then like edit, or like /show is what this would look like if it were something else. And then for this one, it's the same thing, but instead it's like /post/ or it's /comments /ID of 1 /comment /edit /1 or whatever, right? So we just need both of those resources. If you were to have a third one, like for the users, you'd have to do something similar, I think. So you'd have like resources users do resources comments, and you get the idea. So once we have these two resources, we also need a route for the history. So we'll say get history, comma 2 : and then this is the comments controller and the history action. So we can save all of that, and I think that's it for the routes. So let's move this back over here and hit refresh and see what else is. Oh, there's no way. No one would believe that. See, not even my fingers believe it. Listen to them. Okay, so we haven't created we haven't done the js.erb file. So you can see here, it was inserted into the database, but we don't have anything appearing on the screen. If I refresh, we have at least something. This looks like it's a little bit broken, but the comment worked. The counter seems to have worked. Can I reply? So again, there's no refresh happening or you have to refresh right now. I can reply, but this is broken. But the rest of this is good. We've actually done a lot better than I thought we would. One more. So I'll refresh the page. One more. Oh, right. The edit form's not going to appear either. But that's good. So let's come back over to our VS Code. And the edit history text has a whole bunch of text here that I forgot to delete. So let me delete that and refresh. And it's saying this was created less than a minute ago. But this font seems a little bit big. I'll be right back. Okay, I found it. This comment timestamp is wrong. So we got to change this. This is font-size of 10, a color of RGB 100, 100, 100, a text-align of center, and a width of 100%. Let's save, oops, let's put a semicolon there. Let's save this and let's try refreshing now. There we go. That looks good. This username looks a little bit off though. Did we even create? We did not. I must have missed it. So after this one and below the, or above the number, we need to do .comment-username. And we'll say font-size of 1.5 EM, color of RGB 25, 25, 25, a font-weight of 625. I wonder if this is the one I had for timestamp. So let's refresh. And there we go. That's what I was sort of expecting it to look like. So the next thing after all of this is all of the remote forms. So let's close all of these files and get to work on some of the remotes. Okay, let's open up all of these in this other window over here. Edit, history, update. Okay, there we go. So let's start with the create.js.erb file. This one is probably one of the more advanced ones, but I'll try and walk you guys through it. So we start with an if statement. First thing we do is we need to check if @comment.reply is equal to true. And you can do this by just putting it into a string and comparing it to true. Because if this is true, then this will also be true, and then you're just saying if true equals true, which of course is true. That was a mouthful. Inside here, oops, this needs to be, there we go. Inside here, we set a var of comment_pane. We then say if, and then we check if the @commentable.comments.count is equal to 0. Then we set the, let's close this actually. Then we set the comment_pane equal to a div with ID reply -container and we open up some Ruby code @commentable.id, and then we close that. And then we say else the comment pane is equal to reply @comment.commentable_id. Okay. So if the commentable.comments.count is equal to 0, we say the comment pane that we're appending this comment to is the reply container -commentable ID. Okay. So after that, we then say comment_pane dot append. Let me actually see if I can find it in here. Let me do reply -. So this is for the reply -3. So that this right here, can I hover over this? Yeah, so you should be able to see this if I search for it again, right here. So this, we then grab this. If the comments count isn't 0, we grab the last one basically, and then we append this new comment to this one. So we grab this div and we say append, which means after. So after this div, add this new comment. And if the comments counter is 0, then we have to say and I'm not actually seeing this one, so this whole if statement might not even be necessary now that I'm looking at it. But let's keep going for now. So comment pane dot append, and then we say j render at comment. Then we grab the dot reply hyphen form hyphen, and here we say at commentable dot id, and then we say dot val. And so after all that, if the comment reply was false, so then we come into this else block, then we need to do a jQuery find for the comment hyphen pane, and then we just prepend to the comment pane. And we're prepending here because if the reply is false, so if it's not a reply, if it's a top level comment like this top level comment, and we create this, it needs to be, if I refresh the page, added up here above the old one. So prepend is before, or like above or before, and append is after or below. So we prepend a j render at comment. After we prepend it, we then need to do a dot reply hyphen form hyphen at commentable dot id, and then we close this and say dot val, and this one and this one are just grabbing these forms. So you can see right reply hyphen form hyphen 3, reply hyphen form hyphen commentable id. It's grabbing these and it's setting the val to be empty. So if I come in here and I say dot reply hyphen form hyphen 3 dot val, and I set it to the empty string, you'll see this text should disappear. You can of course also do this and change it from here probably. So that's just a way for you to clear it from the jQuery, which is why when you click the post button, all this stuff clears itself. It doesn't do it by default. You have to actually program it in yourself. The other thing we do is, just in case, we say dot tricks hyphen button hyphen group hyphen hyphen file hyphen tools dot, oh whoops, I switched quotes, so this needs to be a single quote, dot remove. Again, I'm not sure if this is necessary. Again, if this wasn't hacked together, I would do a lot more testing, or any testing at all. But just in case, I put this here as well, so when you finish with all of this, if for some reason the file tools are back, they get removed again, because we don't want the users ever seeing anything remotely close to being able to upload anything into your comment section. Because if you thought hate comments were bad, wait until they find out that they can start posting memes. That'll do it for the create.js file. Next we need to come into the destroy.js file, which thankfully is a lot simpler. For this one, all we have to do is find the div with an ID equal to comment hyphen at comment.id, because all of these are going to have a comment ID. So like if I click on this one, you'll see this is the comment pane. I can actually minimize this. This one has an ID equal to 4. This one has an, oops. Let me just do this instead. This has an ID equal to 4. This one has an ID equal to 3. This one has an ID equal to 1. So we just grab it by the ID and we say .remove. And that's it for the destroy action. So if I refresh the page right now and I bring this down a little bit, if I hit like delete here, it removes it, removes it, removes it, removes it. It's as simple as using this. The next one we do is, I opened up a different page. We'll do the edit.js.erb file. So for the edit.js.erb file, we, let me scroll out of this one because this one's a long one. Okay. So I'll say plus, because I want this to still be readable for you guys. We start by grabbing the div with a comment, or with an ID equal to comment hyphen body hyphen. Then we open up some Ruby code and say at comment.id. Then we do .html. Then we do a JRender. Is it? It's changing both windows when I do that, isn't it? We do a JRender for the comment/form, comma. Then we have to pass in the commentable, because remember, this form, if I zoom in a bit, oops, too much. But this form, right here, we needed a commentable and a local. So we pass in the commentable, which is the at comment.commentable. We also need the local, which is at comment. So you can see here, if we had just used inside of the form, instead of this local, if we had just said comment.new, what would we do here? We would need like a new form basically. But because we were smart and thought ahead and we switched it to just use this local, this allows us in the edit form to reuse the form. So it's all running off the same form, which means if you want to change something, you just change this one form and everything else follows suit. But that's it for that line. The other thing we do here is, once again, because we're creating a new form here, we're just going to check for the tricks button group, file, tools, and we're going to say .remove. I'm sure this is not the most optimal way to do this, but while I was doing this, I kept thinking to myself, what happens if I, show someone how to make a website that lets people post some less than inappropriate pictures, or even worse, like malware files that they just post on there and say, hey, download this PDF, and you download it, and the next thing you know, your, I don't know, credit cards being used to fund some Twitch streamer or something. And then you have to like ask for the money back, and then the Twitch streamer loses out on their revenue, and they're bummed, and you're bummed, and yeah, let's not let that happen. The next thing we're going to do, let's do the update.js.erb file. So for this one, we're going to say, grab the comment body by the at comment.id, and then we'll set the .html to be the raw at comment.body.to_html. And I think the reason why I did this was because when I just did, let's set this to be equal. When I just did comment.body like this, it was not displaying correctly. So let me refresh the page and test a new comment. So that gets added. I hit edit. The form's appearing. That's good. But now if I hit enter, we're running into an error here. Missing after argument list. Of course, it's not telling us which file it's missing that in. Okay. So it looks like without the raw and without this .body.to_html, that was the thing that was throwing the error here. So I moved it back, and now it seems to be working. So I guess maybe that's why I have it set up this way. It's because it wasn't even like rendering to the HTML. But the next thing we do is, again, this is like new new-ish to Rails 6, and it's definitely new to me, so that's why I'm a little bit off, because it is a lot to try and learn within the span of about a week. For this, we say grab the div with an ID equal to edit hyphen history hyphen body. And if you'll remember, this is where all of those IDs that we were creating inside of, I think, the comments.html. Yeah, so this is the div edit history, and then inside the comments edit history, this is us changing all the stuff in the modal. So once we update this, we then need to, we update the edit history, and then we need to actually update this text right here, as well as this pop-up right here. So that's what we're working on right now. So we're grabbing the edit history body, and we're saying .html, and then we want to render the comments/edit underscore history, comma, and then we say comment is at comment. And then we close out the Ruby code, hit the quotes, hit the parentheses, and then the last thing we do is we say edit, grab the ID with a grab the div with an ID equal to edit hyphen history hyphen text hyphen, grab some Ruby code at comment.id .html render comment/edit underscore history underscore text, comma, comment is at comment. And then we close this and save it. So now if we, let's close this, or I guess do this, refresh the page like this. We can edit this post. We can say like blah, blah, blah in so many words. And we'll just, I don't know, bold this. We can see the edit history. We can reply. The posts are updating. We can add another comment. This is all happening remotely. Okay, I think that is largely it for the comments partials. So the last thing we really need to do at this point, if I come over to, if I open Chrome over here maybe, I can check for the devise username page, because I can never remember how to do this off the top of my head. So the first thing we'll do is we'll come to our console, and I don't think we did this before, but let me check. So we'll go to the DB folder, migrations. We did not. So first thing we'll do is we'll say Rails G migration, add underscore username underscore to underscore users, and then we'll say username colon string colon unique. That'll add the migration. Then we do a Rails DB colon migrate. We then come up to the application controller, and let's full screen this. Inside of the application controller, which let me pull that up in my VS Code. First thing we need to do at the top, we'll create a before action, and then we'll say configure underscore permitted underscore parameters, comma, if colon devise underscore controller question mark. We then have the helper method. That's good, but we want protected def configure underscore permitted parameters. We'll say added underscore attrs is equal to %i, and then we'll open up some square brackets. So the added attributes will have username, email, password underscore confirmation, and remember me, and avatar. Then we want to do, so this is the username we're adding right now. This is the avatar that we're using for our actual pictures for the users. Then we say devise underscore parameter underscore sanitizer dot permit, and we want to permit sign underscore up, and we want the keys for sign up to be added underscore attrs. And then we also want to do another devise permit, but this one's going to be for account underscore update. So when you go to edit your account, you want to be able to do this as well. Once that's done, we need to create the virtual attribute accessor or writer in the user model. So let's come into models, user.rb. Let me open that up over here. Let me find it. In the user.rb, we have the one attached. We then want to say validates username, presence needs to be true, and the uniqueness will say case underscore sensitive is false. And then we'll do a validate underscore username. We'll also do a attr underscore writer colon login. We'll then do def validate underscore username, which is that thing we just set up there. This is us actually defining that. For this, we'll just say errors.add colon username, comma, colon invalid. And we'll say if user.where the email is the username dot exists. And I think, yeah, dot exists needs a question mark. The other thing we'll do in here is we'll say def login, and then for this one it's at login or username or the email. And then the last one in here is going to be, oops, I just went to a whole different zip code with that one. The last one in here is going to be def self.find underscore for underscore database underscore authentication warden underscore conditions. So the conditions will be equal to the warden underscore conditions dot dupe. And we'll say if login equals conditions dot delete the login, else if end. So if the conditions are deleted, then we'll say where conditions dot to underscore h, oops, underscore h dot where, and then we'll open up this array looking thing, and we'll say where lower username equals value, or, and that has to be capital OR, lower email is equal to value, comma, when we open up braces, we say value login.downcase, and then outside of all of this, we say dot first. And then on the next line, we say else if conditions.key question mark, open up parentheses, colon username, or conditions.key question mark email. Then in here we just say where conditions.to underscore h dot first. And that's it for the user. And I think the last thing we do is tell devise to use the authentication keys, which happens in config initializers devise.rb, and I don't remember where this is, so let's say authentication underscore keys right here. So line 43, we're gonna uncomment this, and we're gonna change this from email to login. So that takes care of the username. The next thing we do, I believe, is come over to our views devise, and we'll change some stuff in here. So if you don't have your devise views folder, if you come to your console, you can type Rails G devise :views, and that'll generate this folder. Once you do have them, though, what you can do is, let me open up my views, devise. Let's start with registrations new. So let me full screen this and close all of this and come to my registrations new. Above email, because we're using simple form here, because we generated this with simple form, you can just say f.input :username, comma, autofocus :true, and then for the email, we'll get rid of the autofocus, but we'll leave this required true, and we'll also add required true to the username. We'll save that. We'll then come to registrations edit, and we'll say above the email, again, we're using simple form in here. So we'll say f.input :username, comma, autofocus :true. And then we also need required :true, and we'll get rid of the autofocus for the email. And then the next thing that we just threw in here is div with a class of form-group, a class of row in the next one, a class of call-sm-4. Then we say if resource.avatar.attached ? Do an image _ tag for the resource.avatar.variant resize : 250 x 250 bang, which forces it to be 250 by 250. It doesn't care about if one way is better for the aspect ratio. And we say class of rounded -circle, which is a bootstrap class that just rounds the circle, similar to what we did for the comment avatar, but bootstrap specific, and it won't like forcibly resize it like ours did. But after that, we come down to this else, and we say if there is no avatar attached, then just do an image _ tag for the /default _ profile.png, similar to what we had in the for like the default avatars on the comments page or on the post page. And then we give this one a class of rounded circle as well. So we'll see class rounded -circle, comma, height of 250 and width of 250. And then we close the, 250. We close that. And then outside of this first div, we give it another call-sm-4. Oops, not 4. Call-sm-8. And then here we just say f.input for the avatar, because simple form does work with active storage. It just has not been upgraded for action text yet. So that's for the registrations, and then we come into the sessions new. So let me open up that file. And then instead of having the email here, we change the email to login. The autocomplete, we'll just change the login, I guess. Autofocus is true. Required is, oh yeah, I guess that's fair. Required is false for some reason. Okay. We save this, and now let's come over here. Let's do a Rails S command. Come back to the home page. Hopefully this works. We are logged in. The username is set to Dean. Let's come to account settings, and let's change the username to Deanin. And let's come to the avatar, and let's just grab one of these. And then it needs the current password, so we'll update the current password. This username is still splitting the email, so that's important. Let's come to the user.rb and get rid of the fake username that we had before, although it has served us well. Let's get rid of that and save. Refresh the page. Now the username is Deanin. If we come into the comments, the username here is Deanin. So that worked, and our image is here as well. So the avatar images worked as well. All of that's good. Now, for one final last hurrah for this episode, even though I know I am way beyond overtime, we're going to seed the database. So let's close all this and come to our DB folder and our seeds.rb. So if you're doing this for a class project and like your professor wants you to have real, quote-unquote, real posts, here's a great way to do that. I actually did this for my senior design class. I just used a bit of a more intelligent generator than this, but it should be enough to at least get you started. So for the user create for our admin account, we also need to add in a username now. So we'll just say username, colon, and then for me, I'll say Deanin with a capital D because I like my grammar. Email's fine, password's fine, all that's good. We want to create 10 fake users now. So we'll say 10.times do underscore I, because I don't think we actually use the iterator here. And then end. And then we'll say user.create exclam username colon faker colon name dot unique. So this guarantees that Faker will provide you a unique name. That's off their GitHub page. And then first underscore name. So it's not really a username so much as just a fake first name. We then create a fake email by saying faker colon internet dot unique dot email. We then say give us a password of password. So you can actually use these username, or if you find the username on the comments page, you can use that plus the password of password to log into that fake account. So if you want your fake accounts to create posts that look a bit more authentic, this is how you could do that. And then we just set the admin to be false, just because I like it being clear in here. And then finally, before we come into the post, we say, let's create a pseudo-random number generator. So we'll call it pseudo_RNG, and we'll set this equal to random.new. And random.new is from Ruby, not from Rails, I think. But after this, inside the post, we'll open up a parentheses, and we'll say 2 plus pseudo_RNG.rand8. And then we'll say .times do _j. And all this is doing is we're picking a number from 0 to 8, and we're adding 2 to it. So we're saying give us at least 2 comments on each post. And then we'll do comment equals post.comments.build. So we're, build. So we're creating a new comment. We're giving it a body of faker lorem.paragraph _by _chars. And we're giving this, I gave it a number of 500 characters. So each comment it generates will have 500 characters. And then we get, after that we set user to be user.find. And we don't want the user to be 0 because there is no ID of 0. All IDs start at 1. And we don't want it to be ID of 1 because we don't want our user to have created it. I mean, you could, in which case it would just be +1. But here I'm doing 2 plus pseudo_RNG.rand10. And then after that, I do a comma. And I say reply true. And then after that, this is wrong. This is not reply true. This is, I skipped a couple lines here. We have this 2 plus pseudo-RNG. I then do at comment.save. And hopefully the formatter will save me here. It did. After I do the comment.save, I then do another pseudo_RNG, and I say .rand5. So this could be 0, so there can be comments that don't have any replies, just because I thought it was more authentic this way. And then I do _k for this one. So I have I, J, K as my iterators, and then I say nested _comment is equal to comment, which is this comment, dot comments dot build. So similar to what we did inside the controllers and stuff. And I say the body is equal to faker lorem dot paragraph _by _chars number, and we'll give this a number of 500 again. I say comma, I tab over. User is user.find, and again, I don't want my account to have any replies here, so I just set it to 2+, but you could set it to 1+, and then even your admin account could have some comments to its name. And then after that, this is the place where I say reply true. And then down here, let me go here. I say nested _comment.save. And I'll save this file. And I'll drag it over here. Let me come to the home page for this. And then I'll come to our terminal. And I'll say kill the server with Control-C, Control-L to clear it. Rails db : drop and Rails db : migrate and Rails db : seed. Let me full screen this so you can see the full command. Once again, this drops the database, recreates it, and then it seeds it. And assuming we did everything correctly, we should have some fairly unique looking users. The other thing you could do is apply the same thing we used to give the posts some images, and instead give the users some images. Okay, so we have an undefined method nil for no class here. So what did I do wrong? Let's come over to here and take a look. Oh, right here. This should be comment and not @comment. So let me just up arrow it. I'll just drop the database and recreate it again. And hopefully this is the last error in the seed file. If we did make it that far to at least that comment error, that means that a lot of the other stuff is working. So that's at least good news. But hopefully this works. So we'll see. Actually, I just realized while this is running, let's come to the posts index page, and let's full screen this. In here, we were actually doing something where we said how many comments the post had, right here. Instead of doing just the word 0 comments, let's do post.comments.count, and then the space. Actually, let's do the pluralize again, like we did for the views. So we'll say pluralize post.comments.count, because this needs to be an integer, and then we'll say comment. Okay, so that works. I guess the other thing we could do is we can add like a delete button or something, maybe. Am I on the home page here? Yeah, so right here, I guess we could do a delete button at the bottom after this 0 comments. So let's say 0 comments, and then %if current _user and current _user.admin, or current _user equals host.user. And then we'll wrap this in parentheses. So if the user's logged in, and then if either of these conditions is true, we'll say link to delete, and then post method delete, or method destroy. I don't remember. We'll just bank on me getting lucky here. So let's say Rails S and see if this worked, which hopefully it did. So we should see that we have some seeded posts again, but we have an error here. It's probably right here. Is it going to say no method? Oh, whoops. After we do this, we need to say end. So let's refresh the page. Okay, cool. So this has 6 comments. That works good. I'm not signed in right now, so let's sign into my account with the username Deanin and that. And let's also put a, let me do this so that you can see more. After we grab the, or after we put the number of comments, let's put a bar here and another space, refresh the page, and then if we click delete on this first one, I have no idea what just happened. Oh, it worked. Okay, so that worked. Good. That's not being done remotely, but of course you could always add that. But let's go into this one, which says it has 3 comments. Now the problem here is it has 3 comments, but it has multiple replies. So the easiest way to fix this is, let's go above where we create this comment, and let's say, okay, I actually changed how we'll handle this. Let's go up to our post controller, the show action, and then let's say @counter equals, let's start at 0, and then we'll say @post.comments.each do comment end, and then we'll say counter equals @counter +1 for each of these comments, and let's actually change this to be @post.comments.count. So this should give us the right number, and then if we come back to our index page, instead of saying @post.comments.count, let's do @counter. But we could actually change this as well. So we'll say num comments. Let's update all these counters here. Save this and come back to our index page and change this to num comments just so everything's readable. And then let's see how many comments we have here. So if we delete all of these just to make our life a little bit easier, so this will be comment number 1, number 2, and then we'll create another top level comment. So there should be 3 comments here. If we come back to the home page, this is saying 0 comments. Oh, I'm dumb. Move this from the show page to the index page. Although you could probably also leave it in the show page if you wanted to, just to show how many total comments a post has there. So let's actually do that. Let's leave it on the show page and on the index page. I know we're pretty far into this episode, and this is not a good time to be, throwing stuff out like this. Let's refresh the page and see what's going on here. Num comments equals @post.comments.count. I see. So we can't do this in the index page. I don't know why I thought we could. We can leave this in the show page, but let's come to the index. And before we pluralize here, what we need to do is, let's just paste this here so we can take a look at it. If we just do one of these, and then we say the num comments is equal to @post.comments. We can actually do some inline stuff here, which isn't the best, but we're like 2 hours into the episode, so I'm just trying to get done at this point. So say @post.comments.each do comment, and then we'll say @num_comments equals @num_comments +1, and then we'll end it. That should work here, and if you wanted to, you could also save this into the post instead of doing it in the view. We might look at that in a special secret bonus episode or something. We're still running into a problem here with @post.comments.count, and that is because this is an @post. This is just a regular post because we're inside of the post.each do post. And if we refresh the page, this says it has 4 comments. So if we come in here, there's 1, 2, 3 comments. Oh, I see. Oh my god. This should be comment.comments.count. So we're grabbing each one, we're adding 1, and if I come up here and I start the server again, and I also come into the post controller and I switch this from here and I say this is equal to, oh, so does plus equal actually work in Rails now? Or in Ruby? Is this like a new feature that I am just now learning about thanks to this formatter? So let's say this is equal to underscore, or at comment dot comments dot count. Plus equals comment dot comments dot count. And hopefully that works. And this one right here, we could probably do the same thing. So say plus equals comment dot comments dot count. Right, so if I do this and then I come to the home page, this is now saying this has 3 comments and it has 1, 2, 3 comments. So this will have 2 replies and 2 main level comments. So this number should now be 4. I can come in here and say this should now be 5. And it is 5. Okay. So finally, let's come over to the show page. And then let's find a spot in the show page to say this has this many comments, I guess. Let's just do it right here after the number of views. So after the number of views right here, which is this, let's come to the index page. You could probably move this to a partial or something if you wanted to. Let's grab all of this and come over to the show page and paste it here. So after the views, we'll throw up another bar. Then we'll say pluralize at num comments comment if current user. Then this needs to be at post and this needs to be at post. And then if we refresh the page, it'll say 5 comments, which is the number we know to be true. It'll have a delete button and it'll redirect us to the home page, and we are done after 2 hours and 20 minutes. I apologize for some sloppy code. I hope this helped. I'm going to cut to an outro clip here or something that I'll record after I get to the editing process. But hey everyone, I was about to start editing the video and I remembered that there might have been something I forgot to do. And then I checked and it looks like I did forget to make it so if you aren't logged in, you can't see the form. So like it'll say something along the lines of, log in to make a comment or whatever. And we can fix that real quick, just tacking this on at the end of the video. If we come into this form.html.erb, if we just start with an if current underscore user, and then down here just say else, and then end, end. If we just do something like dot row, and then in this row we can do like dot call -2, and then dot call -8, and then do a h2 with a class equal to comment -login -prompt, and then like percent equals link2 login new underscore user underscore session underscore path, and the Ruby code, and then to comment, and then close the /h2. So if we do this, and then I guess down here we can also do a dot call -2 to make it even with 12 columns taken up. And if we move this down here and save this, and then if we come over to our post.scss file, we can do a dot comment -login -prompt, and then margin of 1 em, a padding -bottom of 1 em, and a text -align center. So if we do all that and then refresh the page, it should say login to comment right there. And then if you come down here, it'll also say login to comment. And if we actually log in to comment, everything will hopefully still work. So let's go to this first post and take a look. Yes, so it looks like the forms are still here. And it looks like everything else is working just fine. But yeah, so that's going to do it for part 3 of this 20 in 20 challenge. We might do one more part for just a basic code cleanup and maybe like a post-mortem if I have time today. I'm not sure. If not, then the post-mortem will happen during week 2, sort of just a look back at this project. So I'm not technically breaking the rules, but I'll sort of talk about what I learned while I was making it and what I think the big takeaways from this project are, as well as some challenges that I ran into or stuff like that. If this video helped you, then I will leave a tip jar at the top of the video description so that you can, you know, help me fund toilet paper, because apparently those are like $20 a roll now. I should probably just change it to buy me a toilet paper roll or something, or maybe like buy me a bidet. That would be a good website. Someone should do that. Maybe that can be week 2's project. If this video didn't help you, then remember to dislike it so we can rank it lower in the algorithm so that other people aren't subjected to it. But that's going to do it for this video, and I will see you in the next one, which might be week 2, and it might be the post-mortem. I don't know, but bye for now.